My name is Catherine Drummond and I'm from Gingerbread Girl Designs, and this video tutorial is on the four-sided stitch. I'm going to be demonstrating the four-sided stitch as it relates to Punto Antico embroidery, which can be a little bit different from some other forms of embroidery. In some forms of embroidery, the four-sided stitch is a pulled stitch, which means you're going to be using a lot of tension and actually really pulling on your thread to open up the holes of the fabric. But in Punto Antico embroidery, the four-sided stitch is not a pulled stitch. So you want to use your regular stitching tension and you don't want to be opening up the holes of the fabric. So the four-sided stitch is basically a square, and it's usually over 4 fabric threads, and it's done in a particular way to give the square the nicest appearance. So we're going to just count up 4 fabric threads from where we came up from the back and go down, and that is the left hand side of the first four-sided stitch. And then we go diagonally across the back to come up for the second leg, and it goes across the bottom, and again diagonally across the back to come up for the third leg, and it goes across the top of the square, and diagonally across the back again to come up for the final leg of the four-sided stitch. So that's one completed four-sided stitch. I'm going to show you the back to see what that looks like. On the back of the work, you'll see that you've made an X, and that's because we were always coming up diagonally across the square from where we went down through the fabric. Now I'm going to make another four-sided stitch right next to the first one, and for the second stitch we've already done the first leg of it, and that is right here. The last leg of the first four-sided stitch is the first leg of the second one. So we'll come up diagonally across again, always coming up diagonally across the square as you make your four-sided stitches. So there's 2 completed stitches. And as you can see, after the first stitch, the remaining stitches are all done with 3 stitches because the first leg has already been done. Now I have decided to make a little square of four-sided stitches, 11 four-sided stitches per side. So I have 11 here, almost done. I'm going to just complete the last one, and then I will show you how to turn a corner. So when you want to turn a corner in four-sided stitch, you complete the last stitch of the top row, and then you turn your work 90 degrees to the left. So I've turned my work 90 degrees to the left, and this line of four-sided stitches that was the top is now the left-hand side. So we're going to continue stitching just as we did before, coming up 4 fabric threads to the right, because we're going to make a four-sided stitch right here, and the first leg of it has already been made for us with our last four-sided stitch. So we're going to go down like this and continue in exactly the same way, building our lines. So turning a corner in four-sided stitch, it's actually really easy. Don't overthink it. Just turn your work and keep going. Now I'm going to show you the back of the work to show you what that looks like, and that way if you check the back of your own work, you'll know whether or not you're doing your four-sided stitch correctly. So here on the back of the work, you'll see this is where we started, and you've got a row of X's along the back. And then you've got one long carry stitch here from when you turn the corner, and then you'll get another row of X's across the next side. As you can see, I've completed my square of four-sided stitches, and the last thing that I want to show you before I finish this video is how to finish off the ends of your threads in the back of your work. And so I'm just going to flip this over so we can look at the other side. So now, as you can see, we're looking at the back of the work, and you can see all of the X's that we made by doing the four-sided stitch in the way that we did. And this is great for the look of our work from the front, but when we're finishing off our threads in the back of the work, it can be a problem because these stitches are quite large, and just running under a few stitches with the needle and thread isn't going to secure the stitches very well. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to start the way that we would start by securing, say, our cross stitch work by going under a few stitches. And then I like to run under the last one that we did, and then a few more, and do that again, under the last one and under a few more. This creates 2 loops of thread around these 2 stitches, and what that does is it acts almost like a knot, really securing your thread well, and that makes sure that the stitching can't be pulled out from the front if your stitching gets a little bit of rough treatment. So that's the end of the four-sided stitch video. I hope that you find it useful and interesting, and happy stitching!